Hello, hello, guys. It is telling me that I'm live, so I'm going to assume that that is true. As you know, if you're new here, there is a 100% chance of technical difficulties on my end because of I don't know if it's my internet or what, but lately been having some issues with my live streams. But I'm excited to have one of my hobby friends, and you probably know who he is. He has his own YouTube channel. It's Ziggy with ZiggyNo's Sportscards Daily. I'm going to bring him on, and hold on, let me see if I can bring him on here. Ziggy, what's up, man?
Hey, Dustin, how are you doing, guys? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like this has been, I've been talking with you online for months and months and months, and we're
Yeah.
finally kind of getting one of these done. I'm excited about it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me on your show. Big fan. You're one of the most popular channels, growing like crazy. I mean, I've watched you from definitely in the hundreds back in the spring to you crossing the 1,000 barrier, and then just boom, right? I think it's been almost 5,000. So you're been following you, and I'll even say I look up to your channel because you're probably the fastest, hardest hustling guy on YouTube channel. So
I
love it.
didn't honestly, and I'm not trying to be like whatever, but I didn't know, I didn't really think that anybody would watch. And I wanted to just kind of put stuff out there and just see if we could get some sort of traction. I used to also put a bunch of stuff on Facebook groups, and people get mad at me because I would be, posting up on Facebook groups, but just trying to get the word out. And,
Yep.
it kind of just over time, as I've been kind of the turtle in the race, just kind of slow and steady, consistent, getting it done that way. But I
I
appreciate
think.
it. Same for yours as well. I've been watching yours for it's just kind of growing, growing, growing. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it's been your consistency. You've always had a message of consistency, and it's funny over this year 2020, and I've been watching YouTube for longer, but in this year of 2020, I've seen a lot of channels come and go, and some that I
Yeah.
kind of understand. They putter out. I wish others would come back. There's some that I miss. So those that I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for those who are starting off. I try to encourage them. Try to give my hand up or whatever, and then I just want those who are doing really well put a spotlight on it because I think that's what's important to the hobby.
No, absolutely. And it's crazy how much you mentioned this. I think you actually had a couple of episodes where you talk about, how you were following like 20 channels. I think you're tracking growth. You were
Yep.
talking, you were tracking 20, and then it was over 100, like overnight, in the summertime. And I've noticed the same thing too. A lot of those a lot of those channels that had sprung up have gone away, or they're just taking a break, or whatever it is.
Yep. Well, it's funny. It's fun. What started me in this was actually my sons. I'm a father of four, and my boys have always been very involved on YouTube. They're big gamers. They play Fortnite. They were doing games on Fortnite, and then they got involved into. They've always been a sports card, but they started following sports card content providers last year, and I think it's because there was a boom of it. Right, there weren't many a year before that, and they started coming with questions. Hey, this guy says I should do this. This guy says I should do that, and I started going, "What are you talking about? Who are these guys?"
Yeah.
So when I first started my channel, like I watched channels for probably 3 or 4 months just to kind of get an intel on what people are doing, what they're talking about, just kind of and trends. I started off by doing kind of a weekly show where I kind of give a weekly wrap up of what was going on. And what I realized, it was back in July, and I was watching Sports Card Live, one of our favorites together, right? Jeremy over there, and he did a video on Panini. He had a Panini guy on talking about the new products coming out, and I thought to myself, I can't wait to tell people about this. So I started doing a daily show. And at the
Yeah.
time, I thought this was crazy. I'm like, we'll see how long this goes. I'll do it for a few days. And then it kept going. The momentum kept going. And there were days where I've been like, I don't know if I'm going to put it out. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep going. And I'll tell you, and you've said this yourself on your own channel, it's those one or two comments where people say, hey, man, I really appreciate this. Thank you very much for putting this together. That means so much.
Yeah.
You watched your channel grow, watch other people go. And I've had my ups and downs. Had times where I lose subscribers and you're like, what is going on? So it's been fun, and I've learned a lot watching YouTube channels, content providers. I think that's the best thing I can say is I'm very knowledgeable now, and I'm not an expert in anything, but I know who to ask or where to direct you to if you want to find an expert in a sport or a hobby.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So what was kind of like, your boys were watching and it got you going. Was there, because I know you were already on Facebook. The first time I
Yep.
actually the first time I ever interacted with you was on Facebook and card groups and stuff, and you were always there to answer questions and very helpful. Were you always thinking like, maybe I will start some sort of a channel at some point, or was that something that just kind of hit you one day, or like, man, there's all these channels? Because that's what kind of happened with me, to be honest. I was starting to watch these channels, and I was like, there's topics. Well, first off, I couldn't get enough of the content, and there just wasn't enough out there, even though there was certainly more than there was a year ago. I was thinking like, why not, kind of treat it. I kind of treat my channel almost like a blog in a way, to where it's almost like if I was going to write a blog post on something, why not make a video about that? And so I'll put up just kind of random topics here and there. And I do some consistent stuff, hobby news and blah, blah, blah. But that's what, and I was just thinking like that might be interesting to some people, just kind of have like these different topics, then they can talk about it in the comments. We can talk about it, etc. Was there a point where you were like, man, I should get on YouTube? Or was it kind of just a function of like the boys were watching and you're like, hey, I should do this,
Yeah.
Was there something that happened?
There was. In fact, it's funny you said it. So I will say, so first of all, I live in the Virginia area outside DC, and the home I'm in is in the mountains. I'm on a DSL line. So I have very, very, very terrible connectivity. Right now I'm at my father's house to do this live with you guys. And I say that because back in 2015 and 16, when this first started with people breaking boxes, we used to watch Pac-Man. Remember Pac-Man? Everybody follows Pac-Man, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We wanted to do the same thing. We used to buy first off the line, and we'd rip those together. And the problem I had was we couldn't upload because of the bandwidth. It just took forever with YouTube. We could not do live. So at the time, we went and started doing Facebook. Facebook was much easier to do stuff. So my sons and I built our own little Facebook group, and we started doing our own little breaks and stuff like that. So we've always been doing that. And similar to what you said, Dustin, in Facebook, a lot of groups don't want you posting information. They only want to post what you're buying, selling, or breaking, right? So I started an information group as well. And I would say this year, what the catalyst was, is I was watching a few channels, and my sons here's what it really was. One of my sons wanted to sign up for a few Patreon channels. Okay. And it drove me. I'm like, really? What are you going to buy? And like, and again, I've brought this up. I don't want to knock people on their Patreon channels. I understand that, but I would say to every content provider, remember your audience is everyone. It's that little kid. It's also that old grumpy collector, right? And from a little kid's perspective, he's like, man, I want to join this channel for $15 and this and this. And I was watching some content providers I like, and I made a comment, please guys, don't go Patreon on me. Because I was just thinking to myself, I'm gonna have to buy 3 Patreon channels for my kids. And it was at that moment my son said, well, why don't you do this, Dad? I'm like, I don't know why I don't do this. Why don't you do this? And we both joked about it, and we started a channel. My son started one too. He stuck with it for a few months, I'd say. And I stuck with mine. And I made him a bet. I said, I can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year if I consistently put out content. And it's like, okay, Dad. And that's really what the catalyst was the goal of, okay, I'm going to show you how we can do this or make it a plan. But it was me just watching other things. And again, my first goal was I want to help people in the hobby, and I want to bring people's attention to other content providers who are helping people in the hobby, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. And actually, I don't think there's another channel like yours. That's why I think it's a really important one. Because it does kind of compile everything, put it together. And with the growth of sports cards in the hobby, it's really nice to have. Let's seg over. Well, first off, let's say hi to some people. Okay, so we have John at JPO Art. How you doing, bud?
Great to see you.
Lee Hoskin, LA Collection. Nice to see you. Chris at Vegas Fine 777. How you doing, buddy?
Great video.
Your Garbage Pail Kids live. It was 2.5 hours. I watched about 40 minutes of it today while I was on a conference call. Don't tell the people at my job that, but it was interesting. Actually, I think we're still trying to figure out logistics, but I think I'll have Chris on for a live sometime next week. I believe we'll see. Brown's Talk, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Grubby Card Guy, good to see you. Geebs C-Town, Pokemon is the GOAT. Brett Hallamore, thank you. Appreciate that. I missed one. Farhad Sani. All right, guys. Appreciate you in the chat. If you do have questions, we'll do our best to kind of get to those. We have some set topics that we're going to hit on. If we can kind of get questions in between, we'll do that. But want to hit on those, and then definitely towards the end, we'll circle back with some of those questions. So let's go ahead and seg into, obviously, like the monster news from this week is PSA Collectors Universe was purchased by Nat Turner and his investment group. I guess let's go ahead. I'll start with you and just kind of overall general thoughts, speculation. Where do we go from here as far as PSA and maybe competitors?
So my first thought was it only cost you $700 million to get your PSA cards back really fast.
That's right. That's how desperate Nat Turner wanted his stuff back.
He got the attention. I think it's really cool. And I will say, let me give a shout out to Cardi C, whose channel kind of brought my attention to the financial side of collectors. And I've followed them for a while. Okay. I'll even say I bought and sold their stock over a year ago. I have not been in it recently. And I like the fact that they're a public company. That's one thing I've always enjoyed, the fact they do disclose stuff. So when he brought the attention about this advocate investment group that was kind of shaking the cages over the summer and brought to the attention that really you've got a group over there that was basically sitting on a golden egg. They had no idea, I think, the value of what this was. Like when I think the market cap of 500 million, when you think about that, it's actually really small. Okay. And when you think about how many people calculate market caps of cards, right? I think like the Jordan market cap's around 50 million. So it's like, 1/10 of that. So think about the 1986 Fleer set. If you did the market cap of all those cards, it's probably greater than the market cap of, PSA was. So I thought it was interesting. What I'm excited about is seeing what's going to happen next. And what I mean by that is it will take some time for the dust to settle and PSA to do whatever they're going to do. But I think in the hobby itself, look for more happening. Could be acquisitions, could be mergers. There's a lot of people coming in this space, right? You have the fractional ownership companies. You've got the software vendors, the card ladders, the market movers, the card genies, right? You've got, you've even got content providers in this space. All this is a brand new space, and you're going to see, I think, emerging and some more activity there. And that was kind of highlighted about the PSA, financials by Cardi C, is that innovation is kind of lacking. And I think what Nate is going to bring to that is innovation. If I'm BGS, I'm actually excited by this, right? Because what that did is it just put a market value of my competitor of 700 million. Okay, I don't know anything about BGS's business, but I'm assuming that's going to help their internal valuation. Same thing for SGC and these other guys.
That's a good point. And actually, it was kind of the stuff that SUC and BGS are facing. I'm just speculating here, but they might say like, "Hey, maybe we should sell. Like maybe it's the time. Like we're flush with business. We can't really handle it. We're dealing with, the slab issues and things. Maybe this is the time. Who knows? I don't know."
Yep. And as we mentioned earlier, Dustin, I think the really interesting thing about this, we've all been talking for this whole year about, and investment money's coming in the hobby. There's big money in the hobby. This is validation because Nate, right? He had to talk to several people who said no, right? He went to several people and said, "Hey, I want to get a couple $100 million from you to buy this." And they said no. But those people who said no are now watching. And what are they doing next? Are they going, "Did I miss this bus?" Are they happy? And think of all the people with big bankrolls who are now paying attention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and we were talking about this before the live started. The one thing I'm curious about is we talk about the $700 million number. How much of that money was Nat's money? Because Nat's obviously the face of this operation because he's a monster card guy. So he adds credibility to this group immediately. I mean, for collectors everywhere, this is the guy you want running PSA. But it's just kind of curious is, how much of it is his money? How many other people are in the group? How many, because they all want ROI and, so it's got to be a good thing. I'm just interested to see how it all kind of shakes out.
Well, you're right. In fact, that's a good point to make. Everybody in that wants an ROI. So although this will take the company private, I think the end of Q1, there had to be something told to them on what the exit strategy is. Most companies like that is a liquidity event, right? Either it's an acquisition down the road or it's another IPO. So I won't speculate, but I would say is for the next 5 years, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because most investors will go in this with like a 4-year mindset of what's the return of my 4 years. So we'll see what's going to happen, I think, pretty quickly.
And I have a question for you. So, and we were going to talk about grading after this, but kind of moving kind of in that direction. Because a lot of people said like, "Oh, well, now prices are going to skyrocket," or there's kind of speculation as to what's going to happen for pricing. It seems to me like if they're going to do innovation, it's going to be, and we've talked about this, innovation along the supply chain to where it's like, it doesn't take 11 weeks to get your order in or whatever. Like, you'd actually get it inputted. Maybe it speeds up that front end process to just, maybe it's still people grading, but just moves it all along faster. If they could give you a guaranteed time, would you care if the price, if it was $10 more a card, but you knew for a fact you were going to have it back in 30 days, or you knew for a fact it was 15 days or something guaranteed? To me, I would feel like if you're an investor collector and you're trying to maybe move cards around, because time is money, for you personally, would you be willing to pay more if you had those guaranteed times locked down, to where you knew you could move stuff?
Absolutely. And that's why people are paying $75 for a card when they fast grade it. Right. And I'll even say my perspective with my sons is we're building a system with them. So we seldom do we fast grade. In fact, in 2020, I don't think we fast graded any cards at all. And I just basically teach them every month we send a few away, and they're going to, will reap the rewards when they come back. But no, I think you're right. I think the interesting thing there is I do think there's an opportunity to make the system faster, more efficient. I think visibility to the customers is very important. In fact, I use a friend for PSA subbing, and he set up a portal for me now, which I assume is coming from PSA, where I can go in and see the status of my cards. And as soon as the grades hit, I can see the grades of my cards as well when they're in the step. Now they're still at PSA, but I know the grades now, and they'll get shipped, to PSA. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to automate that and make it easier for the customer or the consumer. And I also think that's where you're going to see differentiation with these PSA subgroups, right? Which I do use a subgroup, versus doing it myself. So
yeah.
In fact, I heard bragging about really, really fast turnaround at a affordable price. It was a 20-day for $25. And again, 20-day is not real 20-day, but it's,
Yeah. Is that something that you always think that you'll do, kind of going to the third party as opposed to doing it yourself? Is it just easier to do it like that right now, the way that their system is set up?
So for PSA, yes, in my opinion, it's easier to go through a friend. I've always, well, I won't say always. One of my first experiences back in 2017, I submitted my own BGS grade for Kareem Hunt cards, and I did no rush. 11 months later, those cards came back. And since then, I do use BGS. I like BGS for when I'm flash grading stuff. I also like them, for example, if I have like a silver Prism card that I know is not going to be a PSA 10 because the centering's horrible, I'm pushing for a 9.5. I'll go with BGS. I'll send all glass cards from the Absolute to BGS because most glass cards will come back a BGS 10 pristine. So there's certain ways I use them. I have not used SGC this year. I had some plans to use them for some stuff. In fact, what I thought's great is I have some of the T206 cards that I got from the 2020 set. I think those look beautiful in those SGC slabs with that authentic, vintage feel.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but for me, I use subgroups. Do
you have any interest in the CSG stuff, the CGC, the new,
I do.
Not a new company, but new sports card company.
I do. Company. I will definitely watching that. I'll probably, send some in when they allow us to, just check it out. They'll probably be PC cards, cards that I want for my own collection or for the boys or whatever. But stuff I'm planning to resell, I'll just continue to go with PSA.
On that note, too, do you do any other types of collectibles, whether it be comic books or any of that other stuff, or your son's into any of that stuff to where you're into that as well?
Yeah, we had some comic books and we have some, but it's not as desirable. Yeah. I would trade my comic books in a heartbeat for sports cards. Sports cards, I think what's great about them is my boys are into sports. So, and this is the thing I'll say to a lot of people, kids' attention spans are short. Like I remember my collecting time was probably 2 summers, right? It really wasn't years in my childhood. It was probably 2 intense summers where I was, hanging out after school and collecting cards. And it's just those intense moments where my kids, they'll go in and out of sports cards, but they stay constant in sports. So like they're big Marvel fans. We collected Marvel comic books for a while, but that just never really went anywhere. They're difficult for the kids to keep in good condition, right? Where a card, you can occasion you look at it. If a comic is in a container, you can't play with it. And they didn't like that,
Yeah. It's also from like a space standpoint. You kind of run into the same problem with like the guys that do sneakers. You think about how many, like and you've seen probably that on YouTube where it's like they have a warehouse, like they have a whole room. They have like a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the bedrooms is shoes. It's like shoe boxes, and you're like, how do you do that? So that's got to be a draw, for cards. So that makes sense. Any other things that you want to touch on the grading front, as far as kind of like this acquisition? Do you want to talk about any like the innovations or anything that piece of it?
Here's one thing I want to mention. I know a lot of us, Gary Vee's mentioned this, waiting for technology to change grading. And I'm a big fan of that. I'm a geek myself, right? I'm a technology in my personal life. But a few things I will share with you. First of all, Sports Card Live, Jeremy had a guy on back in, I think in the spring or the summer, who actually did a funded study up at a university on the technology needed to grade cards. And the study came back pretty negative on the challenges that exist there. And what it really brought my attention, because again, I was a skeptic, like, come on, there's nothing technology can't solve today. If you can use a 3D printer to make a gun, you should be able to, grade a card. Now, what I've come to find is that, think about this, guys, and this is what I think people don't realize. If tomorrow there was a company that perfectly graded cards and it was 100% accurate, how many cards do you think would come back 9s and 10s? Not many. Right? Most of them would come back 7s and 8s. The reason lots of cards come back 9s and 10s is because humans are grading them. Right? If a machine graded them and there's no subjectivity in it, they're probably going to come back harder. Are you going to use that again? Probably not. I'm going to go back to PSA because I want, and this is the thing I say to people, we don't want accurate grades. We want favorable grades. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's the truth of the hobby. So I caution people like, technology is going to change a hobby. I don't think technology is going to change a hobby. And in fact, here's what I'd say, Dustin. We should really be pointing a finger at the manufacturers. Because think about this. In the last 30 years, these lazy guys are still printing and making cards that come out 7s and 8s for quality. Now, think about this too. The technology's changed. They use chromium technology. They hand pack flawless and exquisite and all these cards, right? But they're too lazy to make good cards for us that are quality. So I really think what we should do is we should put the fingers back at Topps and Panini and Upper Deck and say, you guys, you should make better cards. And it's funny I bring this up because something that surprises me is a lot of people return cards to the manufacturers. Like they'll get a card, a silver card is not centered. They'll contact the manufacturer and send it back and they replace it. And I always thought that was petty. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Why are you doing that? But I actually think that makes sense. The manufacturer, we're upset about grading. We all want 9s and 10s. Well, look, why are the manufacturers still putting out garbage products? It's 2020, guys. Like I said, you can print a gun with a 3D printer. You can't make a quality card.
Yeah. No, that's true. And actually, when you were saying that, it makes me think of just how tough it is to get good vintage cards. Because when you think about like back when they were printing cards in the 70s, 80s, they didn't give a rat's about any of that. They were just like, print those suckers out, cutting them. I didn't remember that until I recently opened, old packs, and I'm like, man, there was not any sort of like, not a care in the world. It was literally just print as many as possible.
It was, but also they probably use, similar printing technology. They probably use the newspaper printing facilities. Today, these companies have access to amazing technology. And like I'm saying, think about the premium prices they're charging us. Prism football, basketball, when Panini's going to sell us a box for $800 or $1,000 off their website, and they're going to, have it, the centering's terrible, dimples, print lines, that's just garbage, guys. Really, Panini, look at yourself and Topps, and they're not, they're all equally guilty. Stop saying, oh, it's just the way it is. All cards aren't 10s. Well, then go back to making a perfect product. Think of any other manufacturing that has not improved in 30 years. If we still are making cars the same way, the manufacturer said, hey, it has 4 wheels and works, we don't care. And I say the reason for this, guys, there's no competition. There's no competition in the hobby. They're lazy. There's no reason for them to make a better product. Even they're lazy on the innovation, right? I'm tired of Panini using color blast in every product, right? They use downtown in every product. They use the same things over and over. And again, one thing I would say, and I've said this to a lot of people I talk about, is I really want competition in the hobby. I want those exclusive licenses broken. I want to see competitors come in this because, for example, think about, I would love to get more involved in the hobby. Think about if you could create your own sports card and all the technologies out there to do it today. It's just the licensing that stops us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even just on a very basic level, if you allowed Topps to compete against Panini, with basketball. It's kind of like what I know you had said, like, wouldn't it be cool to have Topps Chrome basketball versus, these other, because at least if you have the two companies at the very least, then at least, you have big companies competing only, even if it's just two, I mean, it would make basketball a lot better. And I think it would weed out a lot of the extra sets. Panini's printing off a billion sets. We can talk about that too. Actually, Vegas Finds had a pretty good video the other day about the junk wax era. And I understand what he's saying. I think the caveat to it for me is just that if you're looking at the sets, they do print a zillion different sets, but the ones that really are the focus, the optics and the prisms and the selects and things are fairly limited. But I think all the other sets, I mean, in 10, 15 years, I don't know if those are going to be worth money, but as far as like how much they're printing, they are printing a lot. They are printing a lot if you count in all the sets.
I'm just wondering, why do they do it? And you think about in business, if you're in any other business, if you're a product world, whatever it is, when you create a product, you guys say, well, what's the reason for the product? When you think about Panini, and I'm thinking right now about Chris at Vegas Finds, because I love the way he thinks about this. What do you think these Panini guys are sitting around when they go, yeah, I think we'll just make a 101. It worked really well in football. We'll make it for basketball. Yeah, it sounds great. Oh, we're good for the day. I'm great. I'm going to get my bonus. Yeah, I'm going to get my bonus. Did absolutely no innovation, no thinking. They didn't do any effort. They're just regurgitating the same stuff.
On your channel too, because you cover hobby release, different releases and things. And the one thing I like too that you mentioned on your channel is you'll kind of follow sometimes a release and if it's selling and where the price, where the pricing is, like, oh, it's sold out at $500. I can't, I'm surprised that happened, or it didn't sell out and now it's $200. So that's one thing. And I like to, that's one thing I like about your channel too, is I can kind of keep tabs on some of that stuff, but maybe that's what it is. They're like, well, hell, let's just print this up, $500 a box. And then, I mean, stuff has been selling out. Random things have been selling out. So they're like, all right, it's a win.
Well, I'll tell you,
it does seem like that.
One of the best interviews I saw recently was on Go GTS, and they had the vice president of Panini sales and product development on. Okay. And I'll encourage you to check this video out. It really made me worry because the guy was bragging about the fact that he manages both sales and product development. Now, if you've been in any other product company in your life, that never happens, and it doesn't happen for a reason. You typically don't want sales and development in the same, under the same pillar, right? Yeah. The other thing he kind of concerned me about is he jokingly laughs about they're just producing more and more product. They're not innovating, right? One of his quotes from the interview was, in August of 2019, Panini did, I think, $2 million of revenue from Walmart alone, just in the 1 month in 2019. In 2020, just a few months ago, they did $15 million of the same revenue from the same company. And his comment was, we did not change the price. We just made more product. That arrogance that I think, it just concerns me. And again, the thing, what I don't understand, again, I'm relatively new to the hobby in the sense I've only been back for like last 5 years. And when I came back and I saw these licenses and exclusivities, I kept asking why. And everybody would just say, well, that's just the way it is. The NFL only wants one throat to choke or whatever. I'm like, why? It doesn't, like, I'll put it this way. If I sat down with the commissioner of the NFL and could have lunch with them and said, look, man, do you realize how you're strangling off this market of growth by giving one greedy license, which is totally anti-American and anti-capitalist to just create a monopoly and stymie innovation? Like you are turning off fans. I have some of my sons will tell you they don't like baseball as much as they used to like because they're tired of baseball. Now, I'm not gonna say it's because of the product, but you could open this up so much more with open competition, right? And there's no reason why they wouldn't do it. And it's not about money, because if Panini's offering them $100 million for the license, I guarantee you I can find 2 licensees who'll give you 50 each, right? You're still the same money.
Absolutely.
So I just think I hope that more people in the hobby will start looking at this. And I think with more money coming in, like we're seeing with the PSA acquisition, when you have hundreds of millions of dollars coming in this, they're going to start looking around this going, wow, what's going on here? You have exclusive licensing going on here. I also think what's going to change too is going to be distribution. I think this is going to be under a lot of pressure because they're now seeing competition from the manufacturers pricing them out, right? If Panini can sell direct, if Topps can sell direct, why do I need these distribution providers now?
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting. That will be really interesting. And I wonder how much of these companies are just trying to ride the wave, like, hey, look, this is going to be a 24-month deal, and then we're going to go back to normal. And or do they really, it's like, I wonder where their head is with it. Like, I'd love to be in the meetings where they're just like, hey, I mean, maybe they're thinking like, let's just print the heck out of this thing because it might not last. Like demand is here now and it could be gone tomorrow. So let's just crank it out. I mean,
Well,
I don't know.
let me give you. I agree. Let me give you a thought here. If we go back 5 years ago and you talk to these the sports card breakers and the card companies, they will tell you they used to be under immense pressure. If they wanted to get access to products like Exquisite or NT, they had to take garbage products from the manufacturers. I'm going to think about that. That's the way this whole system was designed. They'd say, hey, you want to get NT? Great. You want allocated prices at $500 a box? You're going to have to buy Hoops. Hoops at the time was a garbage product. No one wanted it. So a lot of these places would buy it. And this is what created problems where before, I'd say 2019, a lot of this product would get wasted where it wasn't used. And these guys who bought these allocations had to kind of, they had to decide what was worth taking that investment risk. Today, this last year and a half, every product sells. Let me tell you, that cannot last because eventually you're right. Dustin, somebody's going to sit in that room in Panini and go, hey, you think we can make another product? And we'll just tell them if they want to get access to Prism next year, they got to buy 50 cases of this junk product. You think they won't do it? They absolutely will. And this is what I'm saying. I thought Vegas Finds did a great video the other day about we're in the junk wax era. And it's stunningly entertaining. And I can't argue with him. Like I said, we complain about, everybody talks about the Topps Upper Deck, Ken Griffey, 1989 card. Well, how many Zion cards do you think there are in comparison to that one card? Right? I mean, I think what's different between the junk wax era from then and today is that we're in a global market. So we have things that help prop us up, right? We have eBay where you can help sell this product and move it along to a global market. But eventually, I am concerned, right? There is going to be a time where all these products can't hold their value.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's where with people coming into the hobby, the folks that are out there like, trying to help people to not lose money because there's always the buying and selling and how to, flipping cards and this and that. That's where it's like, hey, ease back on some of that new product. Actually, I was, just over the holiday week, my brother-in-law he was like, hey, I heard about your channel, and he's a big sports guy, and he's like, talk to me about sports cards. What should I do? And he was like, should I get into it? He had heard about breaks, and he's like, should I get into breaks to get into it? And I told him, no, if you don't know what you're doing, and that's not the first entry into sports cards, because he wants to do it too. And I'm not saying he wants to be like a mega flipper, but he does want to buy and sell. He cares about he's trying to make a little bit of a side hustle out of it. Yep. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably not the entry point. But the thing is though, is a lot of people, that's how they hear about this hobby, is they see breaks on YouTube. They'll hear about this, and that's how they'll see it. And that's an entry point for a lot of people. So I just think that's kind of interesting, because that's not how, when we were young and getting into it, it was you just buy packs at the store or whatever. It wasn't, there was nothing like that, as far as like an entry point.
The breaking has been amazing. I'd say it's one of the top things in the last 20 years. If you look at, grading has been a major influence. eBay's been a major influence, but breaking as well. Because in fact, breaking has supported the ability for these prices to go up in price, right? No individuals buying boxes. Well, I would say that it's few individuals are buying boxes at thousands of dollars, but lots of people love the gambling side of it, the sports side of it. You feel like you get something, even if you get nothing. You get the entertainment value of a break. So it's funny. Somebody asked, why am I so into sports cards? I would say part of it is, again, father of four. I'm divorced as well, so my kids don't live with me. And cards were something that helped bond us, right? So, for example, years ago, we could get into a break, and I could call my son and send him the video, and we could watch it the next day after school and talk about it, right? Or we could watch the draft and talk about how's that going to influence, card prices and stuff. So it's been sports are a bond that I have with my sons, and sports cards have been a very easy bond that's kept them involved. And I'll say, when I went through the divorce, I actually sold off most of my personal collection, and then I helped my sons rebuild their collections. And this time what I did is we rebuilt that with them learning, right? So I also teach them how to buy and sell. We're trying to teach patience which is extremely difficult when it comes to grading, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I love this. I love the hobby, and I think a lot of it has to do with my kids.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Actually, speaking of just boxes and breaking and everything, for somebody, I got in 2 years ago, but I was only buying singles. I wasn't even touching boxes or any of that. Talk about where price of, and I want to seg into uh, football, product that's coming out, Prism is coming out, and all that. But to, talk about kind of just basketball product, football product. What was it like 18 months ago, and where it's gone? It's obviously gone up, but when you were buying it, when you were going to the card store to buy hobby boxes or whatever, where was it at that point for like Prism football? Let's just say.
I'll take you back to 2017, which was the first year of Prism first off the line. And I remember that because, again, at this time, first off the line was really a big deal because it was at suggested retail prices. It wasn't as much the refractors as it was the price, okay? So in 2017, Prism first off the line football sat on the server there for months, if maybe weeks, if not a month, okay? It did not sell out at all. And again, I'll also say back in 2017, autographs are really where it was. No one really, this wasn't much value in non-autographed products. There's autographs and relics. So I remember watching, like I had a great year too in 2017. I remember buying a full case of first up the line. I had Christian McCaffrey's bronze autograph card. I had tons of great cards from that set, all of which I sold off back then, right? The next year it came out, again, suggested retail price, and there was more interest, so it was harder to get to that. Like the first year it sat on the site, the second year it sold out instantly. And then last year, I think it's the first year they introduced, and I'm not sure if it was with football. I know it was with basketball. They started doing the Dutch auction, the Dutch oven auction, right? Where my biggest complaint there, and I say that because prior to that, I always applauded Panini for at least giving me the shot at buying at suggested retail price, right? Giving me the dream that I could get online, and if I fought the bots and if I got through it all, I could maybe get a box for $120. Well, last year that dream went away when they brought in the Dutch auctions, and
now,
that
explain that. So is that they started off at like a really high price and they worked backwards?
Yes. So the Dutch auction basically, and what happens is we're very aware of this. First of all, here's a problem with the hobby. Blowout will look at a product that's coming out. So 6 months ago, they looked at Prism football and go, hey, man, a lot of popularity in the product. We've got allocation because they do. I'm going to price it at $1,000 a hobby box. See what happens. And they put it on their website for pre-sales. And you know what? It sold out. So they set the price. Unfortunately, it's blowouts. It's the Dave and Adams. It's the Steel Cities. They're setting the price with pre-orders. Okay. Then Panini looks at this and goes, well, shit, I'm not going to leave money on the table. I'm going to do the same thing. So if it's selling for 1,000, what do? They set theirs at 2,000 as a high, and they came down. Why they picked 2,000? Because most first off the line is going to sell it at 2x or whatever its hobby compatible is. Sometimes it's more, right? But at least at 2x.
What is the benefit to first off the line compared to a regular hobby box? Is there more good stuff in it?
Yeah, first off the line, they guarantee hits in first off the line, which are not guaranteed in hobby, right? I can open a hobby box, and remember, hobby box is on average. Where in a first off the line box, if they tell you there's going to be a red refractor with a pink pony on it to 25, and it's not in there, they'll send you one. Okay, so that's the big thing is that they have, and I'll say this: the best first off the line product by far is National Treasures. Okay. Because in National Treasures, you're guaranteed an RPA per box, rookie, patch, auto. And in National Treasures, an RPA is freaking gold. And let me bring that back to you. When you look at a case of NT, normally a 4 or 5 box case, on average, you're getting 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 RPAs per case. They're not on average 1 per box, is my point. So when you see the first off the line, if you can get a first off the line NT box, that's a guaranteed RPA. And that's a huge, huge deal. And again, I'll say in 2018, those NT boxes were $500 a piece. I think they went to $750.
Wow. Jeez.
Right now they start the auction. I think they started the auction at, what was it, 7,000, 8,000 for the NT boxes, and they went down.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't know they were that low in 2018. Oh my gosh.
And again, it's funny when I look back. So just give you a brief history. My first few years back in the hobby, I was pure collector. Okay, which I think is another topic we talk about, the collector investor battle. I was pure collector. And what I meant by that, I did not sell cards at all. If I liked you, I'd give you a card. If you're a friend of mine, I'd give you a card, but I didn't sell stuff. Like I'd be in a break and say, hey man, I want that card. I'd gift it to them. Right. It wasn't until 2018, I think it was 2017, where I had to start selling because I was going through divorce, stuff like that. But I was very much collector only. I didn't like selling. I hate the idea of people profiting off it. I thought it was weird to me in a way. And then I guess the kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of snapped, and I started getting in the selling side. And I say that because the first few years I would buy up every product. I chased every product every week, right? Every break I was into the breaks.
Yeah.
Third year I started realizing, like, I loved a product called Infinity many years ago. It was a football product, and it went away the next year. And I was like, what the hell are you doing to me? So by 2017, 18, I started only focusing on products that had a history, right? Like I don't like first year products very often because I've just been burned in the past where they're not there the second year, you know?
Yeah. All right. So let's seg into football cards, because we've got Prism that's just coming out.
Yep.
We also have, I don't know what I missed here, but I didn't realize that Optic Football comes out December 23rd along with Contenders.
Yeah,
I
they're
thought
both
it was out later.
It's funny. They're both right now. I think the release calendar has them around the same time. I got to assume one's going to slip. I can't see them both coming out at the same time.
Okay. I thought that was odd too. For some reason, I was thinking Optic was going to come out later, like January, February or something. But
yeah, and so I'll say I am a huge fan. And when it comes to football, I love Prism. And I'll even go back to this. Star Stock, I think, does a very good job of kind of giving you the guidelines of what products to buy, because if they don't take it, you probably don't want to get into it. Now, I'm not going to say every product, because they also take draft products, and I don't do draft, but they stick with Prism, Optic, Contenders, Select, right, are four products that I like. And I like those two because they're friendly products in the sense that you normally get a lot of cards in them. And with today's market where base cards have some value, you know, if you get a base card, there's value in that, where you can go into a flawless, noir, immaculate break and get nothing, you know. So I like those four products. I love Contenders. I'm just shy of Contenders because it's a brutal product, man. Every time you watch a Contenders break, you're going to see autographs of people. You're like, who the hell is that? And like, in fact, it makes me again think back to myself, like Panini. I think there's a group of guys in Panini sitting around going, hey, can we get the practice squad guys to sign? Sure, we can. You know, it's like there's just junk that they put in these autographs. You get 6 autographs per box, which everybody loves. Like, wow. Honestly, there's maybe one autograph in there that's good. Now, it is a prospecting product where you might get some players that have value 3 or 4 years from now. But it's a brutal, like when you watch breaks of this product, man, you see how much people pay and you watch them go without anything. You're like, wow, that was tough. Now it's also
because I contemplated, because I don't have a lot of Prism Contenders, but I was thinking about, okay, well, you know, maybe that's a product I can afford to get into on a box. Maybe, I don't know, but it would be kind of a fun box to open. But I'm glad you said that, because otherwise I would have been disappointed.
Also, in my opinion, don't do the retail at all. I mean, I just have never seen good retail Contenders. I mean, I don't want to be too negative on it because, again, I mean, from my perspective, it's not something that I'm going to buy boxes of. Now, what I would tell you, I'll try to buy first off the line. They will probably do a Dutch oven of the first off the line box, and I would definitely try to buy that and flip it. I would not rip that either. I mean, I'll even tell you this: a few years ago, another thing to target are breaks where they're doing first off the line breaks. A few years ago, I got into a break and I got the Lamar Jackson red foil, you know, Contenders autograph. Which is now, you know, thousands of dollars. I sold that for hundreds when I got it, but I got into a very affordable break for that card. But Contenders I love, Optic I love. They're brutal products as far as like Optic, one autograph per product per box. Optic I love in the hobby because you have a hobby option for it, and that, you know, the rated rookies do really well. So
are you chasing after? I know we had talked a little bit about getting into a Prism football break. Have you had any success getting into anything?
Yeah,
or are you still playing? Okay.
Yeah, so I got into a retail break last week where a guy got a bunch of retail, and I'll tell you this, it made me sick to my stomach when I looked at how much he made off the retail, right? Can you think about the retail boxes are $20 a box, and they're basically selling for $100 right now, and then in breaks are even more. So I spent $125 to get the the Dolphins in a break of 10 blaster boxes. So that's pretty pricey. But
how many cards?
So cards, I think there's 8. What is there? 8? I forget how many cards. 24 or 48 cards per box. So times 10.
Oh, yeah.
I got two Tuas. I got a Tua base rookie and I got a Tua patch silver prism. So I did very well in that break.
That's
I'll
good.
also tell you though, watching that break of 10 blasters, there was only one Tua, one Burrow, and one Herbert pulled the entire thing.
Wow.
So there's not a lot of them out there. I also did do Mojo breaks. I got on Mojo breaks and I did the I bought the Buccaneers in that. I bought them early on before pricing was really out. And I'm excited because the Bucks have they have a stained glass. They have a color blast. I'd love to get a color blast of Tom Brady. That's going to be a hot card.
Was that mainly just for the Brady? Is that what you were going for with those?
I did it because, first of all, I like Mojo breaks. So I try to do some Mojo break every now and then. I'm a big fan of those guys. And I like their pricing. From my opinion, if you get in the Mojo breaks early on, their pricings are pretty fair. And I like the way they break their stuff. So I thought I'd chase some Tom Brady's. I did not go after all the quarterback teams are pretty expensive. I'll say that. So when it comes to Prism, right now, I'll tell you this too, Dustin. I went out the last 2 mornings looking for retail, scouting out my neighborhoods. I expect the drop to come on Thursday. Now I will be hitting Targets tomorrow because I hear Targets might get their stuff on Wednesday. So I'll be making my runs this week.
That's a good tip. I've got a Target right across the street, literally. So I should just go over for the hell of it. Is it normally mornings or afternoons or?
It depends in the region. Okay, I've seen everything different. In my area, it's normally mornings. Now I talked to the rep in my area, and she'll tell you it just depends on what time of the morning she gets there. And she said lately they've had a lot more requirements for taking pictures and getting stuff done. So she's running behind, right? So I will go, and I even like to meet other people that are there just to see what's going on. And I even like to go to see if the empty boxes are there. So like I checked my neighborhoods. There's no empty Prism boxes yet. So that means Prism's not in my area yet. And this one to me is worth chasing, man. I've got my conference calls normally around 9 or 10 in the morning. So I get up around 7. Hit the stores. I'm out in the car by 9 for my calls.
When because Walmart doesn't have it yet, right? Is that not true?
It depends. It depends on the region. I expect my Walmart will have it this Thursday. I think mine will.
Okay,
but we'll see.
Interesting. Never chased stuff, but I think it'd be fun to do it with my son. Actually, just like turn it into a game. He'll probably want to buy something else, but I think that'd be kind of fun to do.
My sons and I have been doing this for years, and we refer to it as retail rating. And we got the system now. Again, this is years ago. We used to go where I'd pull up in the front of the store, and my oldest son would jump out. He'd go in and we would scout it out. He'd call me, "Dad, they're here," and then I'd come in. If not, he's back out in the car and we're on to the next one. So we had a system going where I drop 1 or 2 boys off. They go check it out and get back in. So I've been doing it for a while. It's fun. I used to, and another thing I do too with my friends is that if I find stuff, if I get extra, I sell it to them at cost. If I find stuff that I don't like, there's baseball there, I sell it to friends at cost. So there's a few people in my group that we will communicate with, and if we see anything, we'll share.
That's cool. I know I need to make some local friends. We have a new LCS that's here. And I've tried to kind of build up some rapport with them. I bought a Breeze rookie card off of them a couple of weeks ago. But I'm trying to kind of like build up just some. And another reason. Oh, I was going to say too. Tidewater. I just saw they actually have a big show that's coming. Yep. I didn't even know about it, but it's December 11th through the 13th. Here in the Raleigh area, there's going to be a big show, so I'm going to try to do that and do some videoing and stuff like that. But yeah, just want to do more of the card shows and the more face-to-face stuff, because I've just noticed that it's like eBay. Obviously, it's at your fingertips, but man, you can find some deals at shows, and you can actually like build rapport with guys to where they'll you scratch their back, they'll scratch yours type thing. And I need to have more of that going on, I think.
I agree. I love the shows. I love networking. In fact, I'll even say this. I have an eBay experience for you. So on Friday last week, I went ahead and sold a Trey Trey Prism PSA 10, and I listed it as, Black Friday only. And the boys and I were going to use the money to buy some other stuff this weekend. And it sold instantly. I priced it at like $650, $675. It sold quickly. Well, I'm on managed payments from eBay. Now, I didn't know that was me a big deal, but it irks me. So it didn't settle at all. Like the money's still not in my account. In fact, today on December 1st, I got a notice saying, "Hey, we've now transferred the money to your account. Expect it to take 3 to 4 days before it hits your account." I'm thinking to myself, this is awful. So I only bring that up because I normally sell in Facebook groups, primarily Facebook groups. I've been doing a lot of Star Stock selling lately. because I like being able to get the money fast. Like even in Star Stock, if I sell a card right now, I can get the PayPal that next day from them. But eBay with its managed payments, and I'm on daily payout. But waiting days for my money, that irks me, man. And I think that's gonna. And I only say that because I'd rather go to a show. I'd go to a show and sell a card to a guy for $600 because I'm gonna get the cash right away and I go spend the money. Where if I
Right.
sell on eBay for 700 or whatever, I got fees and I got to wait time. It just opportunity cost is irking me.
I just did one sale on eBay too, where it was same sort of thing, and it wasn't even a lot of money, but it was just that annoyance of you're used to having it immediately, and yeah, you're waiting 3 days or something, and I don't know, and I think they took the fee out immediately. I don't know why that
Yeah.
annoyed me because it's like, maybe I'm just used to it being later or something, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know, man.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the shows. I saw the Tidewater one. I'm waiting to see if they're gonna, things have been so up and down here in the Virginia area, right? I think they were looking to close schools down again. So I'm hopeful those happen. If they do happen, I'll try to make it down. I'm also super excited for the Nationals next year because there's
Yes.
going to be a lot of excitement going into National next year with all the new people in the hobby. It'll be interesting to see if they can set the record, for Nationals.
No, absolutely. I agree. I'm excited to go. Farhad, thanks very much. Appreciate that. He asked, so what do people think of Mosaic versus Prism football? I remember talking to you. You weren't really crazy about Mosaic when it came out. Is it now, if Mosaic prices come down because of the other new releases, is that, are you back in if the price is right for Mosaic
So
football?
I'll even say this again. I don't understand Panini. I really sometimes question what they're thinking over there. The reason Mosaic basketball did so well, first of all, it was a spinoff of Prism. And second, it came in after Prism. Do you know what I'm saying? It was released later on the season. To put Mosaic out first, I thought was interesting, and I thought it was poor planning because, like many collectors, right? Those people who are true, and I won't say true, but experienced collectors, they're waiting for Prism, Select, Optic. If they had put Mosaic in the spring, I think it would have done a lot better. Right now, if you look at Mosaic prices, they seem to be slipping down. In fact, I think they're way underpriced when you look at the quality of the card. It's a good quality card.
I was actually, just from a timing standpoint, I was thinking about getting in because people are now starting to get into more basketball cards with the season about to start. And I was kind of wondering, I mean, I know football off season is kind of like March, February, March is probably the best time to buy football cards. But I was also just thinking maybe, check the prices of some of that stuff, as we head into basketball season and see if it softens a little bit.
Yeah, I also want to stress, you guys, remember, football is an American sport. And I know we're very much, we're influenced by most of the content providers are American, but it just does not get any love outside. And it typically, like I'll put it this way, when I first started collecting years ago, I remember talking to the guy at the card store with my kids. I was like, so what products to get into? And he recommended basketball, and we were looking at football, and everybody loves football. And he said to me, he goes, football is the worst sport to buy. And he said, simply because you have to remember the career lifespan of an athlete in the NFL is 2.5 years. Okay. It doesn't give them much time to build the career, the value would want in the cards. And it just is. So like right now, I know there's been a dip in kind of the hobby. It is football. I like football because I love football as a sport, but I try not to get too invested in football products. I'd rather get invested in soccer or hockey, honestly, because I think there's more longevity in those products and a bigger market as well.
Yeah, soccer and hockey are really interesting. And I've dabbled in soccer. I had a Wayne Gretzky rookie card and sold it. I talked to Jeremy about that with Sportscards Live. So,
Yep.
but I haven't done a lot of hockey. But then I kind of wonder, just from an investment standpoint, and I know we talked about boxes and things like that. Just buying and holding sealed wax. What were you saying? There's a big rookie that came out. Is it Alexi?
Alexi something, and again, I know Vegas Fines can tell you who he is because he's one of the guys who tipped me off to it. And again, this is a perfect example where my boys, we will watch hockey in the playoffs, but we're not hockey fans, right? We root for the Caps here out in the DC area. But we did buy some hobby boxes, and we found some retail of Series 1. And again, I've learned about hockey, and I understand the Series 1, Series 2, and Upper Deck, and we're just going to hold on to that sealed. And I think, again, it's one of those things where ideally a year from now, we can use that hockey to buy something else, but we can use it to buy some Prism in 2022, right? But I love the hockey because it's got the longevity. It's got a global market. It's got passionate collectors. Also, I'll say this: Upper Deck is phenomenal product, man.
Yeah.
They really let's not forget, they're the innovator who really changed the junk wax era, brought in, the innovation that was lacking that Topps and others seem to not have at the time. So I like Upper Deck a lot. Also soccer wise, I like soccer because I'm learning about soccer, but it's fun, and I'm also selective of what soccer products I'm chasing or where I go and what I'm getting into. And there too, it's easier to hold sealed soccer because I don't have the same temptation to open it as I do. I have no sealed basketball. I can't keep sealed basketball to save my life.
Yeah, the only sealed basketball I've got is 91 Skybox. I got a box for like $25.
Nice.
And I thought about just opening it just for, that was the thing. It was like with boxes nowadays being so expensive, like that's something I could do with my little ones if they were getting into it. Just be like, hey, we're going to open Junk Wax era 92, hoops. And, we're going to try to find Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and, Magic Johnson stuff. I mean, maybe that's how, but, obviously it's not as exciting as the guys that are playing now, but that's a $20 box all day.
That thing's great. We did that. My sons and I did that with some, I think it was hoops where we found we send them off to get graded and we'll see how they come back. What I will say, what amazes me, when you buy those old boxes, pack fresh, you pull right out of the pack, sleeve it up, send it off to get graded, they came back like 7s. They don't come back very high grades. I don't know if it's because it's old maybe and the paper's deteriorated, but it's hard to get good grades on old products.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know what it is about those cards, and that's why I guess even for that Junk Wax era stuff, if you are getting 9s and 10s, I mean, there's probably some value in those.
Yeah.
I'm not buying a lot of that stuff. I mean, I've got some like 89 Pro Set Barry Sanders rookie card. I got a PSA 10, but it's kind of like what you said. If I go buy 89 Pro Set packs and I open them and I find 10 Barry Sanders, how many are going to get 10s? Probably not that many.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you appreciate it too. In fact, I love the videos when people do the reveals and they show you the cards with the real grades because people don't realize it. They do not come back all 10s. And they don't even come back all 9s,
Those were the videos that actually scared me off from it. That was where it was like, all right, it was that in combination with just the slowdown in 2020 of everything.
Yep.
But it was like seeing people get 5s on a modern card that's 2 years that was printed 2 years ago or 7, like you said. Like, I need to know what I'm doing, or I'm gonna spend a lot of money on this.
That reminds me, when I got back when I was doing the Facebook groups, I was shocked by the multipliers, as they refer to it, on graded cards, right? Like, I remember I did a lot of buying and selling of raw cards, and I was in one of the graded rooms where it was a high value graded room, and a guy was selling a Chris Bryant rookie card for like, I don't know, $500. And I'm looking at the card going, well, the card raw is $120. Why is this? And someone explained to me, well, if it gems this, it's for 3X and 4X. I'm thinking, this made no sense to me. It just didn't, but it does now. When you go through that process, it's not as simple as, oh, if I put it in a case, it's worth more money. No, it's if it's in the case with the grade on it, then the value goes up, and it's hard to get to that. So that was learning. Like I said, for the beginning, I only sold raw. I just started selling graded cards probably in 2018. And then 2019, one of our New Year's resolutions was to grade most of what we get instead of, I think too often you get a good card, whatever you get it, and you sell it fast because you want the money to buy more cards. If you get into a budget where you have money coming back to you, you can make better decisions, right? More clear, focused decisions, in my opinion. So we grade more.
Yeah, no, you guys have a good system in place. All right, Business 124 asks, Ziggy, is your favorite card you have in your what is your favorite card in your PC that you would not sell?
I don't have one that I wouldn't sell right now. It's fine. I used to have them. I used to have a lot of great PC cards, and I sold them all, so I can't say that anymore. And just to give you some examples, I had a LeBron James from the Eminence set back in 2016. And if you guys are familiar, Eminence is coming out again. And again, I had a LeBron James that I got into a break. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in Las Vegas for a conference. I was in a break with Leighton Sportscards. And I had a Kevin Love and a LeBron James Eminence card in a break. That was one of my favorite cards ever. I just love that card. Had to sell it. It's gone. Other great cards I've had. I had a 1/1 Ken Griffey Jr. from the first Transcendent set. Oh, that was a wonderful card. And again, it's sold. So I don't have any that I don't sell. And I think that's why I've definitely moved more towards the investor side when I think of the collector investor. What I do, though, try to encourage my kids to PC cards, right? Like try to teach them because I do notice, like, I know for them, they think money value, like each one of my sons has a Luka PSA 10, right, in their set. and I'm trying to get them to keep it. But every time they're like, Dad, could I sell it? I'm like, well, you could, but if you do sell it, your brother keeps his, right? So that competitive, this keeps them to kind of build their own PC. So that makes sense.
Absolutely. What teams are you? You know, like you're big into basketball cards. Are you fans of a certain team, or is it just basketball in general?
Yep. So again, I'll go back to my sons. My sons got me into being. We were all Warrior fans many years ago. I will say that, with the exception of my oldest son, was a KD fan when he was with the Thunder, and then when he came to the Warriors, he actually hated that, and he broke off and became a Bulls fan. But the rest of us stayed Warriors fans. Now today, I think maybe two of my sons are Warrior fans. Now they've all kind of switched teams. I am still Warrior fans basketball wise.
What's your thought overall with, you know, Klay Thompson's out, but they picked up Wiseman? I mean, do you think that they can contend for a championship without Klay?
I think it's going to be fun to watch. Here's what I realized with the NBA. I love the NBA, but the book is already written, and we just don't want to admit it. And what I mean by that is we knew that it was going to be Warriors Cavs for 5 years in a row. And it pretty much was, with the exception of Toronto in there, right? Well, I can tell you right now, it's going to be Lakers next year. I hate to say that, but it's going to be Lakers next year. It's going to have to, unless something huge happens, I just don't see that team not winning. Now, it's going to be fun as hell to watch. I'm going to enjoy it. And I tell you, when the playoffs come, you're going to be a lot of times you're like, man, the Lakers not going to do it, but they're going to do it. It's just, unfortunately, the NBA, I think, is very weighted with the super teams right now.
Especially because the big one for me is the Lakers got Montrezl Harrell. I don't know how they got him from the Clippers.
I know.
But, sixth man of the year goes to the Lakers. It's like, come on, man.
Which is another one. I'll say Vegas Fines was tipping me off to him a while back. And I was shocked that he went there as well. I mean, I can't see the Lakers. And I'll say the big loser, in my opinion, the Clippers.
Yeah, I don't know how they just let them go to the Clippers.
Yeah, they'll make the playoffs, but I don't see them doing much. Now, what I'm super excited for next year in the playoffs is that I'm looking to see Luka and Trey and a lot of these young guns, Zion, Ja, all of them do well. I have no expectations of them winning rings. I'm waiting to see what happens when LeBron leaves. When LeBron leaves, probably 2 or 3 years, who becomes the next heir apparent? Will there be another dynasty? What will happen? I'm super excited. The NBA is gonna be a lot of fun.
And that's really what I think about when I'm buying basketball cards now. I'm more looking at who are going to be the guys in 3 to 5 years. When there's no Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard will probably still be around. He's 29. But he's going to be getting up there. Who are those? Who's that next crop? That's what it's, I guess that's what's fun about the speculation game now, because everyone's kind of, Luka's kind of the it guy right now, but who knows who's going to come into the league? Who knows, and who knows how some of these other guys are going to advance? If you look at, there's a lot of guys that kind of in the middle of the pack there. You have the Jamal Murrays, you have the Donovan Mitchells of the world, you have the Dame Lillards, and a lot of these guys. They could ascend. You never know. A lot of you look at like MJ. What was he, 28, 29 before he won his first championship? I know he was already superstar status. Some of these guys could break out potentially. Who knows? We just don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's super exciting times, and it's going to be fun seeing basketball, and then baseball back and hockey back. So I'm super excited for 2021. And that's what I also love about the hobby. The hobby doesn't really have an off season. If you like the hobby, and you don't have to like all the sports, right? You can be a passionate football or basketball fan, and you can still enjoy those other opportunities in the hobby. Like I said, buy sealed wax and hold it, trade for products you like. Your awareness of this. And the other thing I've also said on other chats is that the hobby is something that I think you can use in your everyday life. You don't have to talk sports cards tomorrow at the office, but you're probably one of the most knowledgeable sports people in your office or in your workplace because of your knowledge of the hobby. And sports are a great way to build rapport in business, right? You don't talk about politics or religion, but you can talk about sports with anybody. Which is something I love. I do technical sales, and I love talking to people about sports, about their passions, whether it's basketball, football, and I can say again, because of the hobby, I know that Alexis is hot rookie coming to the Rangers, right? I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for the hobby.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. Do you think, just kind of big picture? 2020 was kind of a boom year for sports cards, and this isn't like a pricing question or anything, but it's more of just an interest demand in it. We talk a lot about, You know, one thing. So I'm actually going to put a video out tomorrow morning about this in particular, but those fractional shares companies. I was reading an article and it was about Rally Road. Rally Road started 3 years ago, and they started out with classic cars, and it's, you know, you can buy fractional shares of them, and they've kind of expanded out into different things. But the one thing that struck me about what it was in that article is that they said the average investor for them is 27 years old, which to me, I'm thinking like, but you started off in classic cars. That's something. My dad's big into classic cars, so it makes sense for me, you know, for like my dad to get in on something like that, because he doesn't want, as much as he would love to have his old Jag again or an old Porsche to work on, he just doesn't want to maintain it. So that's something where maybe it'd be fun to kind of speculate on or whatever. But the fact that they were 27, you know, it kind of made me just wonder about just collectibles in general as an alternative investment class. You know, is kind of this younger group. You know, I have a little brother that's 20 years old. Is he going to be, you know, is this going to be more mainstream? I guess these types of, you know, is it going to be more mainstream to be into sports cards or to be into graded whatever it is, you know, and mix that into your stocks, bonds, real estate stuff. Do you see that being a thing, or do you like moving forward, or is that more just kind of a fad? You know, this is like a few years and then we kind of move out of it.
You know, I don't know. And the reason I say that is it's funny. I have a younger brother who we collected cards when we were kids, and he's a business guy, has his own company, does his own thing. He's in all sorts of investments. He has no interest in this as an investment. And I've talked about it too. And I've been saying, you know, you can make some money in this, just not for me. And I only say that because I think it makes sense to me why 27-year-old to be a target market, right? I think to myself, you have a lot more exposable income then, right? You probably don't have a family or kids, you know. Also, there's kind of this incentive. I want to have a little bit of everything. There's kind of this bling factor. I could put on my Instagram that I own a piece of a mantle, right? There's that part. I think at an older age, you kind of have kind of that old bull, new bull, young bull kind of mentality. Like, I don't need to run down. I'll just walk down type of thing. So when it comes to the fractional ownership, I think it's interesting, but it's just not for me. And I don't know why. Like I would gift it to people. I could see giving it as a gift to a friend who knows nothing about sports cards to get him involved. But it's not something that is for me. And it'll be interesting to see if it takes off. I think I commented early on. Early comments about the product was it's very difficult to trade with it, right? The windows are very limited. There are a lot of fees and stuff. I hear that's gotten better. I saw a video the other day where I think the window for one of these guys just opened up. It was at $25 a share, and it went up to like $50 a share. So
yeah, I think the two things that I've read about it is that like that 90-day hold window or something where you can't trade. I think the SEC mandates that or something.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of a barrier. And I'm sure that's there for a reason. I'm sure it's there for, you know, things to not be manipulated or something. I don't know, but and then it's evaluations of stuff. And I know that's where we've probably talked about. I think we've talked about this, but they're using certain comps to evaluate what a card is, and they're saying, okay, well, we estimate it's worth $2 million, and we're offering it at this. It's like, and that's where I just need to see how it shakes out. I need to see a couple of years, a few years of you know, at least a pattern, kind of see how they do and whatever, because those initial evaluations are so critical. You're buying in at a certain, you know, certain rate, expecting it to go up from there. I don't know. I think that's the part I would need to just kind of wait and see on.
Well, I'd say the 90-day lockout is an example of where you're basically trying to put a round peg into a square hole, because SEC for requirement of stocks and IPOs, that's basically to protect from people who vested, right? Where if I'm in a company, as soon as it goes public, I can sell my stock right away because I know the company has bad financials. I'm gonna get the hell out. That's to prevent really from happening. As a company first IPOs, like I remember when I went a company to IPO, you had 6 months where you basically had to sit there and wait under a lockout, and those for good reasons. I don't understand the lockout at all when it comes to sports cards, because you're right. In fact, the lockout in many ways is counterproductive, because if anything, information is very critical to the value of a card. So let's say you buy a product. Let's say you buy a guy's card, right? It's Super Factor 101. You pay $10 a share, and you have a 9-day lockout, and the next day he goes out and kills his family. You know, you're stuck with the card. You can't do anything with it. So that it's just, I understand the reason, and I like the fact that you have, you know, in fact, if anything, it's the only part of the hobby that has regulations in it.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. And I remind people, there's no regulation telling Panini they have to, keep any print run records or anything, or they have to adhere to any. In fact, here's another great example. Do we really know that Panini witnesses the autographs of every signature that they sign? We just trust that they do because they put it on the back of their cards. No one's ever sued them over it. We just, we put this trust in them. So
yeah, no, that's I've never even thought about that. Yeah, but I guess I'm not hunting a lot of those, the mem cards or the autos. So I'm not spending big money on them yet anyway. But yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I've never thought about that.
Well, in fact, Jeremy brings up a topic a lot on his channel about the counterfeiting of patches, right?
Yeah,
and
I didn't know that was a thing until he talked about it.
Yeah, about how they can go in, right? If I get a card, to 99 NTRPA or whatever, and it's just a napkin-like patch, I can go in, open the card up, take a patch out of a different product. Doesn't even have to be the authentic product. Put it back in there, seal it back up, and sell it. There's nothing preventing that type of fraud from happening. And it's interesting because I forget who it was. I think Jeremy or somebody was talking to one of the manufacturers about it, and his comment was, well, we put a little microchip or chip inside each patch that authenticates it. And Jeremy's comment was, that's great, but that means I have to destroy the card in order to verify.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like that's kind of, someone thought, well, we're going to make sure they're authentic. Well, you're not keeping the authenticity of it. That prevents after the theft. And Jeremy's response to this is it's simply this. Panini and these manufacturers, again, they're making a lot of money off these cards. Take a picture of every card and keep it in a repository that's on your website. So I can go see all 99 RPAs and I can see all the patches and I can match them. Another thing that's lacking in this hobby, which I can't wait for it to happen, is a registry of hits. Someone should have a registry that says, okay, every time my serial number card gets pulled or it's on eBay for sale, it should go into a registry so you can look at a product and go, well, how many of the gold cards have been pulled out of this? Oh, not many, right? Or there's been a lot pulled or all of them are pulled, right? That's the value. No one's tracking that registry of hits. And we could also track the grading. If you have a card, that's a serial number and you see it was graded a, BGS 9, and then a few years later, that same serial number shows up as a PSA 10. Hey, that's a red flag. How did they get to that? We should have a registry. Somebody should have a registry of monitoring that. And that's just simply for fraud and protecting this, the industry. So.
No, that's a really good point. I think that, for the card makers and the grading companies and all of it, I think security needs to be a little bit more of a focus. It's kind of like, the stuff with the BGS slabs, and I know this can happen to anyone, but there's got to be a better way, some way to easily track and trace. And I know, look, criminals will make it happen one way or the other, but they counterfeit money, so why wouldn't they? Essentially, a slab is money. It's fairly liquid, that card in a slab to sell it. But yeah, that's the thing that concerns me is as this hobby grows and the money pours in, that means the scams are coming, if they haven't already been.
RFID. It's that simple. There's a chip in my dog, so that if he goes to the vet, they know the dog belongs to you. You could put an RFID chip in every slab, so that if you took it to a store, the store could run the slab under and go, RFID confirms this chip in here matches the label. Just, what I'm saying? It can match that registry. A way to tie this back really is going to go into money. When money triggers this, and I'll give you an example. If you look at NT, the Zion Williams RPA, the logo man is still missing. No one's hit that yet, right? And I believe there's still a bounty on it for $500,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So think about that right now. If there was a registry of just tracking all the NT hits and NT, you could be able to calculate how many NT RPAs from Zion, Ja, Hero, Kobe have been hit. And then you could calculate what's the risk of going out and buying these boxes at $4,000 a box, to maybe hit that Zion, right?
Yeah.
How many of those you have to, someone will eventually start calculating hits to figure out the odds. It's like card counting, right? I think if Vegas is paying attention, he'd probably think about it. It's card counting the products to see what's sealed and what's not and what the value is. If a big card is pulled, the value isn't as high.
That's a critical data point. You're right. And if you're buying or selling sealed wax, that would be very important to know, because if you're selling sealed wax, you'd be like, hey, look, here's the big money cards that haven't been hit. That's why I'm charging you $10,000 for this box. And if you're buying, you can say, like, I'm not going to pay $10,000. They've already pulled all those or whatever. That would be an excellent data point to have.
Yeah, there should be a hit tracker where I should be able to go out to a website and go, hey man, the iMac, the LeBron is already pulled, the Curry's been already pulled. So I don't want those teams in breaks either. I don't want to be chasing Steph Curry in the IMAC break. That information should be available somewhere. And again, it's out there. It's just about pulling it all together, right? So if someone's listening with some smarts and some money, I think a sports card registry would be huge. And I do think that if you create that, you can get revenue off that, right? If you just create, if tomorrow you said, okay, I want everybody to send me information in the registry, and then people come check the registry as information come in, you could sell advertising off of that. I mean, it could work.
Chris is all over that, right? Vegas fines. You got a handle on it.
Card counting, man. Card counting.
All of a sudden he's silent in the chat.
Well, then I really buy boxes too, but I'm just saying when you look at the cost of these boxes, man, some of them have some, like that. I can't wait for the NT logo man to be pulled. Right? I mean, it hasn't been pulled yet. It will be pulled eventually.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, have you seen any of the snakeskin cards, Prism football? Have you seen any being pulled? I don't know how. I don't think they're numbered. I think it's just like they're rare.
Yeah, I think they're printed. So the first of those would probably pop out maybe in the no huddle, because right now the only thing that's been breaking has been retail, and retail does not have those. No huddle ripped today, so there were some no huddle breaks. And I think is it Wednesday or Thursday or Friday for the full hobby box, I think, right?
Oh, for some reason I was thinking it was already out. Okay, so it's not out yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. This is a good example. I'd say one thing too that people don't realize is distribution of retail is totally separate from hobby. Okay, which means Panini will get the retail stuff going, and the retail guys will go on their own delivery schedules. And this is why you'll see multiple waves of products come out. Like people saw Mosaic basketball out again. They saw Optic basketball out in the summer. It's not because Panini's reprinting it. It's Panini already printed all the retail, and they shipped it out to Disty. And then Disty will get it out in their regions as they can, and some of them will sit on it, right? So This is an example like Mosaic basketball last year, where retail is out first before hobby, which in my opinion is creating some of that craze. Like right now, those base Prisms or those 3 quarterbacks are going for over $200, I think, on eBay right now, which in my opinion is absolutely crazy. Okay, because let's put it in perspective. When Zion came out last year on Prism, his bases were around $50 to $60, and that's a basketball product of a #1 prospect only a year ago. Okay, and here we are a year later, where football quarterbacks are going for a couple $100 in base Prism. And that blows my mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm definitely gonna wait. It's just gotten so high.
Absolutely, but just why the chase? Why are people paying $100 for a blaster box? Because there's 3 quarterbacks in there that if you hit one of them, you make $200 or $150 off of. And if you do grade it and it comes back really well, gosh knows how much those graded ones will sell for, the first ones.
Well, and the thing that's kind of surprising to me, and I guess the variable I'd like to know is how many of these people, because I remember even on I think it might have been Sports Card Investors Facebook group, but there was a guy that was asking, and I responded to it, but it was basically like, I want to get some Herbert rookie cards. Should I buy now or should I wait? And I was just like, hey, I'm probably going to wait till March, during off season. But I wonder, is he buying that because he wants to flip it, or he wants to buy? Is he buying and selling, or is it just a collector? Is it just a guy that like, I'm just PCing Herbert, or I'm holding long term? That's one variable I'm really kind of, I wonder about that, because there are a lot of people, especially in that 35 to 50-year-old kind of age bracket, that are getting back into cards from when they were kids. And I just wonder how many of them are, just buying or doing it with their kids or whatever, and that's it. I'm curious on that.
I would say if he's looking to buy right now, he's probably looking to buy, to grade, and sell. And I say that because, again, if you're a collector, you're patient, that you can get it later on, it will be less. But I will say there's a big rush for people to buy these. So last year I was in a group of people, and this is something I recommend. There were 4 of us, and we made a plan to buy up Optic, Zions, and Jaws, just the base cards. So in Facebook groups, we see them in a line, or for sale, whatever. We buy them, we try to negotiate it, and we were buying Zions and Jaws for around $60 to $45, right? And we bought as many as we could last year, right at release time. And then we sent them off to grade them. And now we're reaping the rewards of that, selling 9s and 10s off of that. So I see a lot of that happening, where you'll see people targeting, 1 or 2 rookies. And again, wait a few months from now on, you're going to see a whole bunch of them flooding the market. So I think it's a great thing to do. And I understand that, because also you'll get people who will sell fast, right? So let's say, he's going for 150, In a Facebook group, you might sell it to me for 125 because you want the money to go get into another break or something like that, right? Which is where I will tell you, I buy a lot of raw that way in Facebook groups, watching breaks, right? I either get in the break or I watch the break happen. The guy pulls two cards. I'm like, hey man, you want to? I'll sell those. I'll buy them for you right now. I'll send you PayPal, friends and family to you. You approve that, and then the breaker will send me the cards, right? Which I think is a very important thing to make. I already have a relationship with the breaker, so I trust the breaker. I know he knows how to ship them. So all I have to do is intercept the guy who hit them in the break and just make a deal with him. Hey man, I'm gonna send you PayPal right now, friends and family, no fees. He gets his money. He never has to take ownership of those cards, and the breaker sends a card to me. And the breaker likes me because I'm probably going to tip him anyway, and I'm probably buying other stuff from him as well. So that's where I like to buy my raw cards. And that's another reason why I say I do breaks. I understand breaks are risky, but I'll get in breaks because there are a lot of breakers that I like to just be friendly with because I want to get access to those raw cards. I think that's very, very important.
That's a good point. And actually, I didn't really think of that angle of it. So that makes a lot of sense. You can get a better deal on it right out of the gate, just because people are trying to churn, so they can get money into something else.
Also, you'll see this in the group. The break I was in the other day, the breaker is offering to consign the cards, right? I'll consign the card for you if you want to list it right away. So right there, if they're willing to consign it, they're willing to help you make the deal. So I can simply say, hey, look, I'll buy the card from you right away. And the guy gets a cut of the deal. So I strongly recommend that because also remember, breakers take very good care of the card when they pull the card and rip it. It's not getting sent to somebody else. And that guy opens it up. He looks at it, puts his fingers all over it and goes, yeah, I think I'll sell it again. So I love buying direct from breakers.
That's good. That's good stuff. Good advice for people that are already out there doing breaks. Think about that. Yeah. All right. Alex at Global Sports Card Investor, do you guys think SGC will come out with some kind of good news in the new year with their grading times? Alex, I haven't been using graders. I'm buying, you know what? I've been buying SGC 9.5s on the cheap.
Yeah.
And not because I'm not like cracking and sending, but just because I think people are just, I don't know if it's the PSA news or what. Maybe people think that like PSA is going to take over the world. Everyone else is going out of business, but SGC stuff has been really reasonable lately. I've been picking up some things here and there. Ziggy, what are your thoughts on SGC as far as grading times or in general, really?
Well, again, I'll say this. I don't think there's anything they can do to make the times change. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. And I feel that across the board for all three of them. In fact, if any one of them tomorrow started pushing their times out faster, I would be concerned with how they're able to do that.
Yeah, they don't want to sacrifice quality.
And I will say what I think SGC got in the challenge of is that they had trust and they kind of broke that trust with a lot of people. Like the biggest complaint I've heard is that they just weren't very upfront about it. Other complaint I've heard too is that, and I don't know this for sure, but I understand, I think they collect money up front, where PSA collects money when the grading is done, which can be a huge difference. Because again, a lot of this game is cash flow management. Okay. So for example, I send 100 cards to SGC and I got to send the money now. And I even have to wait 2 or 3 months. I'm waiting time where I don't have that money. Where PSA, I can send the cards to PSA and then I pay for the cards when they pop. Right. And then I get those cards back with shorter period of time where that money's out of my hands. I think that's been a big deal. And I think that also goes back to the way PSA does their business. As a public company, they can't recognize they didn't recognize the revenue until the job is done. Right. When you're a private company, you need the money, your cash flow is strapped. So you need the cash up front. And I think that definitely impacts their business. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'll go back to what we started with. I think they're a key target for acquisition. Right. I think Beckett, SGC are key targets for acquisition. I don't know who it is, but hell, Microsoft could look at this market and go, hey, I think I'm getting sports cards tomorrow. And, $700 million for PSA was a drop in the bucket when you think about what they could probably get for BGS or SGC. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
There's just a lot of deep pockets out there. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that, it just set a valuation right there, for the top dog. And then you can come down off of that for the other ones. But
this isn't, you mentioned, SGC slabs are cheap. I want to just point out, we're talking about a free market here, right? There's no, the market set itself. The reason SGC slabs are cheaper is because the people holding them are willing to sell them.
Right.
And I can't stress that enough. most people in the hobby are willing to take less than what the comp value is because they want the money. They want the cash, right? So if I have a card that maybe cost me $10 or $15 to acquire and I've graded it and it might be selling on a PSA for $200, but an SGC you'll give me 150, I want the 150. You know what I'm saying? So I think one thing I've always said is that, I love making offers. And that's why I like about Star Stock. You can make low offers and they can sit there for a long time. But offers are a good thing. If someone has a buy it now with an offer, that means they're willing to take less. You don't have an offer up there unless you're willing to take less. So that keeps the liquidity in this market.
I know. I kind of wonder that when on eBay, if I've got best offer available and someone just pays outright, they don't even make me an offer. I kind of like, did you mean to do that? You could have. I don't know. I would have probably sold it for less. But okay.
Well, that's when I priced the card wrong. That's what happens, and I've done that. I had I'll give you a great example. Back in the summer, I think it was maybe it was last summer. I had the Dwayne Wade Gala autograph rookie. It was a championship rookie or some card. It was an old card that the boys had, and I took it out, put it on eBay for I think it was $99. And I was looking at Dwayne Wade comps, and they're around $100. The card sold instantly, and I'm like, wow, that was pretty neat. And then a few days later, a friend of mine sent me a link and goes, "You see that card's for sale for $4.99?" And it sold immediately as well for $4.99. I'm like, oh, now I know why it sold so quickly. So we've all, I've been on that side. I've been on the side of pricing too low, which I think is fine. In fact, I like to sell a card where there's meat on the bone, where the person getting the card has some value, right? If I'm selling them at top market value and something changes, then I feel a little bad for them. So I want them to have, extra value on that. I'm happy, leaving a little meat on the bone.
Oh, look who decided to show up, Brad. What's up, man?
StreamYard sponsorship.
Congrats on your stream. Yeah. My whole family, like I say, my whole family quit their jobs. We are all set for life. Thank you to StreamYard. They're taking good care of us over here. All right, what is this Chris has got? The sad truth is most of the time you end up sending out offers with anyway, but eBay shows the sold price is whatever you had listed it for. It's ambiguous at best.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just something to mention when you think about comps, right? I want to point out we are still using eBay for comps, right? Blindly or not. And I mean that. So I do a lot of adminning in Facebook groups, right? And one of the things we do is we look at the value of a card sometimes before we approve it. And we don't use market movers. We don't use Card Ladder or any of those products to determine the comp. You basically look at eBay. eBay still is the dominant comp in the market. I know Star Stock has prices, CMOC, but it all comes back to eBay. And he's right. We can't see some of the data. I mean, eBay could do so much really to change the hobby. If they would tell you when deals were completed, they gave you the final sales. And I wonder why they're not doing that yet.
Yeah. No, it's almost like all of these companies weren't ready. It's like 2020 happened for cards and nobody was ready for it. It's like this cottage industry that all of a sudden became, number one overnight, and then they just didn't know how to deal.
Well, again, a lot of it is there's a lot more eyes on it now because, again, some of the collectors will tell you they've been complaining forever. Like eBay has had its issues for years. Like I said, I don't like selling on eBay, but I do. We all do. And in fact, one thing I think somebody mentioned, maybe it was one of your shows, is that if I can do a deal, let's say I'm going to sell a card to you. If I can sell it to you under comps, you would rather me do it not on eBay because if I sell it to you on eBay under comps, I actually just affected the market, right? Like if I go sell tomorrow a PSA 10 tray at $500 on eBay,
that's a good point
in the market. But if I were to say, hey, Destin, give me $500 in cash, I'll get you the card. That's better for two things. Number one, you keep the market value high as well. I get my $500 in cash, but the market value still stays at 700. There's no low comp in there. So eBay is a barometer, but it's only a barometer because there's so many transactions happening that never touch eBay, right? In fact, one thing I was talking to Jeff Wilson about at Sports Card Investor, when you look at the market caps and tracing all the eBay activity, which they do a very good job in these apps, right? It's really only the tip of the iceberg when you think of all the transactions that go on. Like think of it this way. Think of the taxes being paid on transactions. Imagine if we taxed all the transactions going on in sports cards.
It's like when they're trying to figure out, annually sales. What is is it a $1 billion a year market? Is it a $5 billion a year? Nobody really knows exactly because of what you just said. I mean, yeah, you've got the auction houses and but But I mean, all the microtransactions that are done through Facebook groups, I mean, it's a
Instagram,
lot. It's a
TikTok,
lot.
it's crazy. It's unlike any other industry too. When you think about it, I can't think of one where if you were to take all the manufacturers, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and you figured out their revenues, they're not all public. The revenue of what these companies are per year is smaller than the revenue of what they create. Do you know what I'm saying? Think of that, how impactful that is. And I can't think of another industry like that. You know, where you are creating more wealth than anything else. Even in gold mining, when you mine gold, okay, there's fixed costs of mining gold, and the gold has a great value. These guys are mining gold in a way, which is, like you said, it's going to bring more crime, more fraud, more eyes to it, maybe more regulations. You know, something's going to pay attention to what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and let me announce too, this is something that I've decided to do over the last month. So for my live streams, I do not put ads on the live streams anymore. I was doing that kind of for the first few. Some of my past ones I had ads on it, but I got some complaints. It's just like, look, these are 90 minutes long with ads. It's tough to watch it. So I try to make it a better viewing experience. I'm trying to do no ads for any of my lives. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful for you all that trying to tune in on a long video, you know, like this. So thank you for hanging it. We got 92 people watching.
I appreciate it. I can say I appreciate it. As somebody who watches them, I will say there are some guys who maximize their ads. I'm like, come on, man. I'm getting hit by an ad every 5 seconds. But I do appreciate it when people do it. So I think that's awesome.
We're at the 90-minute mark. So guys, if you have questions for Ziggy, and for those that are new here, if you have not been to Ziggy's YouTube channel, it's ZiggyNo's Sportscards Daily. And essentially, he does a lot of different types of videos, whether it be product releases or just kind of news in the hobby. But the one very consistent is it's the Sportscards Daily that he does. Typically releases in the morning, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of what to expect from a content. From sports card content for the day, what you missed yesterday, etc. But I watch it every single morning because it gives me a good idea of kind of the landscape with all the content creators that are out now. It's helpful, and I watch a lot of content. I make a lot of content, but I watch a ton of it too, so it's very helpful.
Yep. In fact, I appreciate that. I'm gonna try to do some more collecting. I would say it's funny. I've gotten some feedback, and I agree. Most of my updates are more towards the investing side of kind of what's going on. I'm gonna try to add a little more collecting flavor to it. I will say moving into next year, I'm going to try to probably do maybe more lives like this. Like I said, I have a DSL line, so I have to go to another location to do it. But I'm looking forward to growing the channel. And it's funny. I started the Daily Show. I was talking to Bench Clear Media back in the summer as well. They actually kind of spawned the idea. I was talking to Ty. He's like, you know what the hobby misses is kind of a daily show. And I'm like, I could do that. And I've been kind of running with it since then. So I definitely like it. I enjoy it. I like putting out. And like I said, I'd say I love the feedback. If anybody has any new content providers you come across out there, let me know. You know, if you find new places for articles or new stories or new scoop, let me know. And like I always collaborate with people like Dustin and other content providers. So if I don't know the answer, I can point you to somebody who does. And love helping other content providers get their channel going, get some shine on what they're working on.
And Ziggy is also a co-host on Hobby Hotline, I believe is the name of the channel. And that's where you've got a group, including Dr. Jim Beckett, who's an absolute legend in the hobby. I remember in 1987, when I first got, or 88, whenever the first Beckett price guides came out, the monthly magazines, I just remember looking forward to those every single month. But Dr. Jim Beckett still does his own podcasts, and he is on Hobby Hotline quite a bit with Ziggy and some of the other guys. So definitely check that out as well.
You'll have to get you over there, Dustin, to come join us. And I'll say that's just been a great group. I stumbled across that group, and I do recommend it. It's on at a weird time, Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Sometimes people are busy with family. But what I love is that you can really ask questions and kind of get good, honest answers. And that's why I started using it in the beginning was I didn't know something, so I'd ask these guys, and they'd come back and give me answers. And that's one thing I love about this hobby is that I don't think there's any one expert. But there are lots of expertise that you can get access to. There's so many people who are willing to help and share. So,
quick question from Kyle. Do you own any sports memorabilia other than cards, autographed baseballs, jerseys, basketball, stuff like that?
So I used to have a bunch of stuff. I still have a collection of jerseys. And I'll tell you why I don't do it anymore. It's a pain in the butt to sell. Like I actually have a helmet too, but they're just a pain to ship. They cost more. It's just a pain to deal with. I had a framed jersey of the Clippers guy who's in the Detroit now. Blake something, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I had his framed jersey. It cost me almost as much as it was for the deal. So I don't do memorabilia as much. Like I said, I have my own jersey collection. I love some jerseys. I have some funny autographed jerseys. Like I have Vince Young autographed jersey, who's like a nobody now. I have Kareem Hunt's autographed Chiefs jersey, who's not a Chief anymore. So I do have a jersey collection.
All right, cool stuff,
guys. Thanks for the comments and support. Destin, this has been awesome, man. I'm a big fan of your channel. It's funny. I will say this too. If you look at my early thumbnails, I was kind of copying your thumbnail model because yours is working well. And then I realized I'm just not very good looking, so I've just gone away from my thumbnail. It's a very basic Sports Cards Daily thumbnail. But I've been following.
Me and you guys and Brad, with you and Brad and some of the other guys, we always joke about like doing the craziest thumbnail. Actually caught on, I think it was on Twitter, somebody, one of the hobby people, whatever, had said like, oh, I can't stand these guys that have the surprise face thumbnail. So now literally like me and Brad and all these guys are like, I'm going to come up with the craziest face thumbnail, like it's a challenge, so it's just in all good fun. Plus I told you this, but like my daughter takes the pictures. So like, I'll be like doing all the crazy faces and she's like laughing her butt off, trying to take the pictures. So it's kind of it's a family thing, doing all the thumbnails. It's funny.
Yeah, that's what I love about your channel. How you talked about that, how your son watches it. Because I used to always watch it and go, why is it always this big head and these pictures in the back? And when you explain that, like, totally makes sense to me. I like it. And it made me do more on camera stuff too, because in the beginning I was like, I don't want to be on camera all the time. But I love the fact you do that. I love the paintings you have in the background. And again, I think it's important, whether you have a kid or not. I think kids sometimes they bring a special importance to the hobby, right? You have a bond with your child through that. I have a bond with my sons because of the hobby. And like I said, even if you don't have kids, if you're influencing a kid in the hobby, if you're giving cards away, just remember, it's just that one spark, right? It's that one time where they're going to remember 20 years from now about doing cards. That's going to, make another bubble boom in the future. So keep doing it.
No, absolutely. All right. I just saw that my laptop is about to die. So I'm going to say bye to everybody just so it doesn't cut us off. Ziggy, stay on. Stay on, Ziggy. I'm going to grab my charger. But guys, thank you very much for watching. And we will see you again soon. We'll have Ziggy on. We'll probably do this every few weeks or so. That's kind of my plan, is kind of rotate all the guys in.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good night.